visitors. So is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? If so, please come forward, grab a microphone, state your name, and limit your comments. There'll be 2 opportunities now and at the end of the meeting, but I want everyone to be heard to the degree that someone has anything they'd like to contribute. So please come forward. Well, excellent. Then that takes us to the prime objective of this evening, which is the presentations and recognitions of, as I was saying, our stellar student athletes. And as everyone knows, success in Cornwall when it comes to academic arts and athletics is kind of the standard. It's an incredibly high bar, and we have, to that high bar, exceptional athletes this year that have broken through what I would call certain limits that have been out there for a long time. Namely, when it comes to volleyball, we were able to get into the Final Four this year, which is fantastic, and beat a nemesis on the way to do that, which was Vestal, which if everyone was following last year, they denied us that trip. And most importantly, they had pretty much their entire team return, and we beat them handily 3-1. So with that, I just want to turn it over to Terry to lead us through tonight's presentations.
Thank you, John. So it's an honor and a privilege to honor our, we're going to start with our varsity girls volleyball team. If you have not watched this squad in action, you're missing out. To say it's an exciting display of just awesome talent, and then you can just tell within minutes that they have an awesome coaching staff that gets these young ladies working together as a team. It's truly not about any one person. It's really about how they function and dominate as a team. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Simo and Mr. Molson to recognize our young ladies.
Thank you very much for having us here tonight. I want to echo some of the things that Mr. Dade said. This really starts with the tremendous coaches that we have on staff. Just being able to put together solid plans, having the vision for what our athletes are capable of, and then that's followed up by the amazing young student athletes that we have that just buy into everything that we're a part of. In addition to earning their 19th consecutive Section 9 championship this year, this team was also honored with the Scholar Athlete Team Award, as well as every other team in the fall season for us. So that's a remarkable accomplishment as well. So we'd like to congratulate them on a tremendous season. But I can say the thing that impresses me most about this group is just their daily preparation. If you walk into a practice, the level of competitiveness and team spirit and camaraderie and everything else that you notice as soon as you walk into the gym is just a testimony to all the great success that this program has been a part of. And girls, I hope that you're really proud of what you were able to accomplish this year, but more importantly, 9 or 8 seniors, Coach. 9 or 8 seniors, what you guys have left behind for the next group to now you've set the bar, now it's their job to finish this. Okay, so Coach, I want to leave this to you to say a couple words about the team. Coach loves to speak, so.
Yeah, my girls are already telling me don't cry because at my banquet I'm always a mess. I do want to say that I appreciate everything that my seniors have done for me. This is our biggest group of seniors that we've ever had, which also puts the pressure on us for next year. So we have practice right actually after this, so just so you know. But they had a tremendous season. We always try to finish, our strongest at the end of the season, which obviously this year was a couple points short, but just getting there. And I know people don't realize how hard it is when you are at the Final Four. But this group, majority of them were on 2 straight teams that went to the Final Four. I would beg to differ to say that we are the second best team in the state, considering our game was really close, and then the team that beat us actually blew out the team that was in the finals. So kudos to them. I also was trying to reiterate what he was going to say. Our student athletes. This year was our third highest we've ever had as a team. So as a group, they are very smart, obviously a lot smarter than me. But so I'm really appreciative of everything they've done for us this year. And I know our 8 seniors that are leaving, we wish they could stay. I think some of them actually want to stay, but they can't. So anyway, thank you.
All right, with that done, it takes us now to our next team to honor and celebrate, the cross-country team, girls varsity. So please come forward.
So again, I want to start by just the same way that I started last time, by acknowledging our great coaching staff that has just continually, year after year, excelled in the preparation of our student athletes and what they're able to accomplish. This year, the team proudly earned the Triple Crown, as they call it. They were able to win their division. Then they won the entire Orange County team championship, beating out Monroe Woodbury and all the other, Warwick, the powerhouses of Orange County. They were #1 there as well. And then they went on to win the Section 9 championship to go on to states where they faced their nemesis, Sayville from Long Island. They finished second to Sayville in a very competitive race. And I think if we had one more week to put that state championship, there's no doubt that we would have come out on top. In fact, the following week we did run against them in the Federation Championships, and they buried Sayville. So to earn second place in the Federation as well. So the Federation Championship includes all the teams from New York City, all the private schools throughout the state, and it was the highest that this team has ever placed in school history, which is a tremendous accomplishment considering the amazing athletes that we've had. So in addition to Coach Foyer and Coach Creedon, these young ladies were, committed from, all year, from indoor track to outdoor track over the summertime, going to their team camps, to workouts throughout the village all summer long, and just trusting the process that Coach Foyer and Coach Creedon put in front of them. Along with their teammates, these were the top group of individuals that went up and represented us at the state level. So with that, we're extremely proud of you, and that we hope that the two of you that are going on to college that will be competing at the Division I level will represent us well, and we know that all the levels of competition that you excelled at will be represented in your preparation every single day in college. And for the 3 returners, as well as the other returners, we hope that you continue to carry on the definition of what it means to be a Cornwall Dragon in cross country and track and field. Coach Foyer, I'll turn the mic over to you.
Well, I'd just like to thank Mr. Simo and the administration for all their support and the board for these great nights of recognition for these kids. We're losing 2 here, as Mr. Simo mentioned, but I want to call them out by name. They both have signed to run Division I next year. Kerry Murphy will be running for University of North Carolina in Charlotte. And to her left, Maris Potter will be running at Siena College next fall. We're very proud of them. As Mr. Simo said, second in Class B is still a great accomplishment, even if it means losing to the same team 2 years in a row. But the following week, not many sports have a federation because it really extends the season. But in cross country, to be third in the federation is probably a bigger accomplishment than second in Class B, because third in the federation means A, B, C, D plus private, parochial, New York City, Catholic, and independent schools are all represented there. So thank you, girls, for giving me another great, thrilling end to the season, and I look forward to the returnees next year. Thank you.
Again, I just want to thank Mr. Dade and the Board of Education, our administrative staff, Mrs. Wilhelm, just for your continued support of our programs, and hopefully we'll continue to have this type of success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simo. Okay, so then that takes us to our next group to recognize. And are we going to do this together or separately? Separately, fantastic, thank you. So, as everyone knows, having a school district full of accomplishments doesn't happen by accident. It happens through hard work at all levels. And so tonight we're privileged to bring into the fold and offer tenure to one of our great administrators over at the middle school. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Terry, who's going to present to Maria. Thank you.
All right, so it's an honor and a privilege to recognize Maria for tenure. Maria is no stranger to the Cornwall Central School District. She earned her stripes coming up, starting younger and working her way up to be the brave administrator at our middle school. I have the pleasure, and in a smaller district, I get to observe our teachers recommended for tenure and our administrators. And a true testament to Maria, I'm walking into her observation. She's got 8 kids that she's ready to interview. She doesn't miss a beat. She finishes one interview, brings me into her office, we chat, and then moves on to the next one. But if you don't know this about Mrs. Plumbo, she truly develops our next principals. She has a track record of that, and that track record is not going to stop with Maria. So thank you for all that you've done and that you will continue to do for our district. This recognition is very, very well deserved. Your students love and adore you. Your staff loves and adore you, and I couldn't be prouder to be your superintendent. So without reservation, recommending you for tenure this evening.
Thank you.
So then that brings us to our final recipient, our final awardee, our final person to celebrate this evening, and that is a teacher at this locale at CES. And I'd ask now that Amanda come forward and to be recognized and awarded and celebrated. Thank you.
So like Maria changed names on me, Amanda did as well. She recently got married, and if you couldn't tell, has other exciting news to come. So we're glad we were able to squeeze this in before our little bundle of joy comes. So I am the proud parent of CES, so I got to first interact with Amanda probably at Field Day, when she was probably the most exciting, most spirited. There's nothing that Amanda doesn't do for our students, but she was literally leading the charge with her students. She does the same thing in the classroom. There is not a dull moment. They are not sitting in rows. They are not just sitting and listening to Amanda instruct. They are up. They are working in groups. They're engaging in high order thinking skills. So used to be Verdon, now Miss Simmons. We couldn't be prouder to have you in our district. This is a veteran teacher that's just going to continue to do great things because she's taught in another state and in the city as well. And now we're honored to have you with us. So congratulations. Congratulations on earning tenure, and we wish you all the best with your little bundle of joy to come.
Fantastic. It's a great time of year, and it's great to be able to celebrate all the accomplishments of our fine people here in Cornwall. So that will then take us to the next agenda item, which is reports, and we will start with Kate, who will tell us all the good news that's going on in the schools.
CES good news for December. Throughout the month of December, our students have been collaborating with one another and focusing on the monthly character trait of initiative. Each year, millions of people tune in to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and this year, the fourth graders at Lee Road had a Thanksgiving parade of their own. Each class read the book Balloons Over Broadway and then worked in groups to create their very own balloon. The children were also responsible for creating a city building with multiplication arrays and writing a descriptive paragraph about their balloon creation. Then Ms. Jados set up the lab with New York City streets, and the students programmed Dash robots to travel their balloon down Broadway. The students worked hard and should be proud of their creativity. Cornwall Elementary School celebrated its 4th annual Rock Your School Day with a whole week of Spirit Days. Rock Your School is an initiative started by Get Your Teach On to encourage teachers and schools to create an educational experience by doing something different for their students. CES faculty held a vote and decided that this year's theme would be Disney. On Friday, December 1st, each of our classes had unique Disney-themed lessons as part of Rock Your School Day. We thank Mrs. Harder, Mrs. Noonan, Mrs. Camacho, and all of our student council members for their hard work in making this day so special. Our librarian, Miss Chrissy, has been teaching our students all about the different holidays celebrated around the world. Our students have also been learning about the difference between fiction and nonfiction texts and will soon begin their research on winter animals in preparation for a new project. Mrs. Jados, our technology media specialist, is always working with our students to help integrate technology into the classroom. This month, kindergarten students continued practicing their iPad skills and letter tracing with the letter identification near pod activities. Mrs. Jados also gave first grade students mice for their Chromebooks and had them practice typing, dragging, and dropping in Google Slides. Second grade students learned how to research on Google Slides and practice note-taking on their Chromebooks. And third graders began brainstorming and typing their personal narratives on Google Docs. Mrs. Connolly's and Ms. Wenzel's third grade classes, along with our student council members, were once again invited to Farmside Acres to assist with their Trees for Troops fundraiser. The students helped load the trees onto FedEx trucks to be donated to different bases all around the country. As always, this was a very special day, and it was a great way to kick off the holiday season. We are now looking forward to having a cozy and relaxing winter break and spending time with our families and loved ones. It will be busy with a whole new lineup of lessons for our students when they return in the new year. Willow Avenue. Willow Avenue has kicked off the holiday season with our annual door decorating contest and afternoon gingerbread house decorating activity. This week we are looking forward to our fourth graders from both Willow and COH showing off their musical skills at our combined winter concert at the high school tomorrow night. The musicians from both buildings will perform in band, orchestra, and chorus. We are welcoming parents to Willow on Thursday evening and Friday for parent-teacher conferences. Willow is full of holiday cheer for our Holiday Spirit Week. Students will be showing their school spirit by dressing up like candy canes, wearing their holiday sweaters and socks, showing off their flannel and their holiday hats, and dressing as their favorite movie character. We will be ending the week with our holiday FMO, where we will be collecting for Toys for Tots and getting a visit from Santa, Rudolph, and the Cornwall Dragon, too. Everyone at Willow Ave wishes you a happy and healthy holiday season. COH. December kicked off with the PTO's first Cookies with Santa event. It was held on the evening of December 8th. Over 150 students and parents attended the event. A holiday movie was featured in the auditorium and pictures with Santa and Mrs. Claus in the lobby. It was a wonderful way to spend an evening with family. The PTO will host their annual Holiday Bazaar on December 19th and 20th. Students will have the opportunity to shop for their friends and relatives. They are looking forward to thinking of others during the holiday season. The annual combined winter concert with Willow Ave and Cornwall and Hudson will take place tomorrow, December 12th, at Cornwall Central High School. The fourth graders have been working super hard to prepare for their performance, and they will not disappoint. Thank you in advance to Miss Tracy, Miss Subi, and Miss Johnson. The concert choir from the high school is going to visit COH on December 21st to fill the halls with song and holiday spirit. To keep that spirit flowing, all are welcome to carol with the COH community on the morning of December 22nd, beginning at 8:30 a.m. on the front steps of the school. If the weather is inclement, the caroling will be held in the main lobby of COH. During the month of December, the first grade and student council at COH sponsored a food and hygiene product drive. The donations have been abundant, and they will be given to the food bank of the Hudson Valley in the new year. A Stuff the Bus event will be held on December 13th, and the students in the first grade and student council will help unload the donated items at the food bank. Thank you to all who have donated. The staff at COH would like to wish everyone a happy holiday season. Middle school. CCMS band students provided music at the Cornwall tree lighting. Many thanks to Mr. Alogia to bringing our students out to kick the holiday season in Cornwall. This week, 5th and 6th grade students will join a fun and sweet afternoon on Friday for the annual PTO gingerbread house build. Students had the opportunity to make some sweet creations. Many thanks to the PTO. Our 8th grade students got all dressed up for their annual red carpet event. We are so thankful to all the volunteers that made this event happen. It was a fabulous evening. The middle school would like to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season. And finally, good news from CCHS. December has officially started with Christmas in 2 weeks and Hanukkah celebrations continuing. The CCHS Music Department held a winter concert on December 5th and 7th last week. Shout out to Morgan Hill for her outstanding solo performance, which received a standing ovation from the audience. Congratulations to everyone involved. We can't wait to continue the festivities during the annual concert choir caroling next Thursday and Friday through the schools. Winter sports got off to a great start with the CCHS girls basketball team taking a close win over Newburgh. Indoor track and field also took off. Wrestling held the dragon wrestling duels. Good luck to everyone in their winter season. The Environmental Club is selling Christmas ornaments were sold in the snack line during 4th and 5th period. by purchasing a paper ornament to be decorated by your choosing and hung up in the main bridge, everyone received a free chocolate bar. Thank you to everyone who decorated and donated. Our hallways are looking especially festive this season. The CCHS Drama Club is holding auditions today for the spring production of Rotten Tomatoes. Good luck to everyone auditioning, and we look forward to seeing the production this spring. As we look forward to the holidays and the new year, remember to take time to be grateful for friends and family and rejoice in the coming weeks.
Thank you, Kate. And let me just point out the reason why Kate had to do that by herself tonight. Normally, Nick is here to assist. He's actually auditioning for a part in the musical. So wish Nick luck. I've seen him before. He's tremendous talent, so I'm sure he'll be entertaining us all in the spring. But again, thank you, Kate, for doing that. So then that takes us to our next set of reports, which we'll start first with Superintendent's report. Terry.
Let's keep it short and sweet because my moment was in recognition of our fabulous teacher and administrator. So happy holidays, everyone. I wish everyone a safe and enjoyable winter break.
Thank you, Terry. So next on the agenda is President's Update. I will be not as brief, but hopefully just as quick. First, yes, this is the holiday season. Happy Hanukkah for those who celebrate, and for those who celebrate Christmas and other things like, it's escaped me for a second, but Kwanzaa. Please enjoy and be safe in all your activities over this winter break coming up. In terms of updates for the board, I just want to give update on 4 items. First, follow-up questions from the presentations that we had, special ed and the drop rotation schedule. Thank you for all your input on that. It's been consolidated. Jim, Terry, and I met and discussed the questions. Given the scope and the number, we thought it best to give the administrators more time to provide an adequate response. So we're going to look to see responses come January on that. But thank you all for the input that you provided in the questions. I've provided that in an email, so just as a reference guide. The second thing I want to talk about are our board goals, just give you a brief update on where we are. In terms of the strategic planning document that we're looking to, I would say, decide on come February. I think we're making good progress on that. I would call that project on track. Recently, we discovered that some of the vendors that we're talking to in regards to surveys have actually done strategic consulting initiatives with other school districts in the county, Middletown coming to mind as one, and that the consulting fees are actually aidable, which is, I know Terry mentioned this notion that, hey, this stuff can be expensive, but the good news is that it seems that the burden will not fall directly on the district, that we will get some support from the state on that. So that should be something to look forward to as we get to that decision node. Self-evaluation, just to reiterate, we've already decided that we're going to use SuperVal, which is the same software that we use for Terry's evaluation. So that's, I think, existing board members are familiar with that technology. For the new board members, we'll have an opportunity to do an onboarding as it pertains to that. Between now and January, what we will do is we will populate it with the criteria that we're using. If you all recall, NISBA had provided a checklist on what items are suggested for board self-evaluation. So what we'll do is we'll put that into the system. We'll give everybody an opportunity to opine on it. We'll also include our annual objectives, otherwise known as board goals, in that. And as most things in Cornwall, I think the Heidi method is used in terms of performance rating scales. So, highly effective, effective, developing, and ineffective. And we'll just adopt that same thing unless there's someone with an objection or a better idea to discuss on that. But we're making good progress on that, and so look for something more concrete. I have the documents here, but look for something more concrete coming at you before the January meeting. Okay? Next, let's go to the positive school environment goal. Where we are on the survey, I had anticipated that we would be able to have chosen and provided the board for review of a contract with a provider. We're not there yet, and I will tell you why. This aid that may or may not be available to us needs further research, and we are researching that. It's a little bit complicated. We have organizations that we're talking to that have multiple subs, and some of those subs have been identified by Orange County, Ulster and Orange VOCES, others have not. And so what we're trying to do is find out what exactly will be permissible in the aidable space and whether we have to create a new avenue of approach. Because of the savings that would involve, I think it's more important to get that right than getting it before us right now. So I hope to have something to everybody at the January meeting where we'll have an actual contract, we'll understand the actual cost, not only for the project itself, but also what it means to our budget, how much it will affect this year's budget, as well as what type of aid we might get, as Harvey mentioned, in the following year as a reimbursement or reimbursable item. Any questions on that? I apologize for the delay, but I think the monies involved are so significant, it's worth getting right than trying to push it through. Christine?
You mentioned subs, like they subcontract out the work? For
No,
the survey? What does that mean?
they have wholly owned subs that are part of their organization. So,
Can you explain? I'm not tracking.
sure. So I'll give you a for instance, an exact one too. So Scaleris, which is the parent of one of the providers, they have multiple subs that are under their umbrella of companies. And under that umbrella of companies, they're able to affect contracts in a way that while the provider will be the people that we know, the actual legal entity is a different than the person that may be working on site with us. It's a little bit complicated, but it's kind of how things have evolved. And all these subs have different specialties. And the one specific to Scaleris, because you asked the question, is the one that helped Middletown with their strategic plan. And that sub's name, I think, is called PCL Associates.
I just hadn't heard it in my engagement with experience. Are we going to be interviewing the Middletown board or talking to anyone there about their experience, or is that common knowledge that you guys are already aware of?
So when we get, I don't want to conflate the two issues. One is a survey, and the other is strategic. I want to keep the two concepts divided, but in terms of references, I think we've heard sufficient. Terry's a reference on the other provider, and we've talked to a number. So, but when it comes to Middletown, I think as we progress towards the other board goal, which would be towards the strategic plan, are we going to go out and actually try to make that a reality? Then we will definitely, to the degree that we're going to do that with an outside provider, definitely make referrals and the like. Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments on that? The last thing I want to bring up is Biagini Woods, and that has to do with the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting that I believe they're going to opine on a request that was submitted back in November. As you all recall, we provided the Board of Appeals an opposition letter to them entertaining Biagini Woods' request. And I intend to be at that meeting. I believe it's on December 18th. Brendan, you were at the last one with me as well. I invite anyone who wants to come and join in the fun to come on down. Bass?
Is it just for the Dragon's Way kind of right of entry?
Correct. This is specific to the public or private road. Is Dragon's Way public or private? That's it. Any other questions or comments on that? The last thing I will just tee up for our next meeting is there has been some discussions, I understand, amongst the board about public engagement, which is, I believe, something that we all embrace and want to encourage. We had a communications forum just recently where there was public engagement at. There's, I believe, ideas on what other alternative mechanisms or channels we might include in that desire to engage with the public. I know the survey is another mechanism that we're going to make use of as we go forward. So if you have any ideas, please bring it to Jim and my attention. And what we will do is at the next meeting work session in January, we will see what we have and have a discussion on the merits of any of these ideas. Currently, we're in the brainstorming phase of life here. We're nowhere near making a decision, but I think it's important to always be thinking of ways to improve how we go about engagement. And so if you have ideas and would like to share them, please come forward and we'll try to consolidate that list and put it out there for discussion next time. Okay? Great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for that. And I'm sorry I was a little bit less brief than Terry. That takes us to our next item, which is committee updates. And I'll just go alphabetically and start with audit. Jim?
Nothing new to report for audit.
Great. Thank you. Brendan, communications?
Yes, so we had our first community forum of the year last week to the day, so that was last Monday, December 4th in this room. That was a capital project update presentation. The video is currently on our YouTube page for anybody that did not catch it live. We've also shared it again on our Facebook page. We've also updated the website with all of the information that was shared at the presentation. So anybody curious can go on. It's the Capital Project 2022 tab that is on the cornwallschools.com website. That's going to have a running list that we'll keep updated with the status of every part of the project. So anything that's completed, anything that's in progress, and then the target dates for everything else that is in both phase 1 and phase 2. We also have some nice before and after pictures for anybody who wants to see what the difference of the difference that work has made. Which moves us into our future activities, what we want to do to continue to support this. We, as a committee, are discussing some different options. I think that we are interested in producing some sort of physical asset, maybe a mailer, a trifold, something that we can hand out either at buildings or perhaps even, again, as a mailer that gives a clear sense of where we are now. Part of the challenge is that this is always a moving target because work is constantly being done. So we're going to try to weigh what's the best way of handling this so that it's not outdated the second it hits mailboxes. But there's also discussion of creating these sort of communication stations, we're calling them, at different locations, high traffic locations, particularly as some of the bigger items on the capital project list begin to either be completed or work gets underway. So you can imagine a communication station about the progress for the athletic complex when that time comes, or about bathrooms that have been completed. It's been our experience talking to parents, community members, et cetera, They might be aware that work is being done, but they are not walking the halls, so they don't really see that work. And so just being able to see the work that is being done at their school when they pick up their kids or whatever could be a very valuable piece of communication. So that's what we'll be working on over the next couple of weeks. We want to get a proof of concept done before Christmas break, and we'll be certainly in touch with the district about what will be required to get that kind of stuff out into the public.
Great, thank you, Brendan. Facilities. Louis.
Yes, thank you. So facilities met in November, and fruitful meeting. We had a review of Mr. Dade with ongoing projects, a briefing on phase 1 and 2, kind of a 30,000-foot view of where we are, what's happening, milestones, and what we can expect in the future. Then followed that with a presentation with Harvey. Mr. Sotlin spoke to all the ongoing projects that were initially identified in the 5-year building condition survey, slated for potentially a capital project, a bonded capital project, but were able to be completed in-house by the Walter Moran and his skilled team over in Buildings and Grounds. A number of projects that, again, were slated for a capital project that, again, were completed in-house, which is beneficial for our bottom lines. Upcoming meeting January 9th in the district office. Agenda, it will be forthcoming.
Thank you, Louis. Policy Committee, Jim?
Nothing new to report since the last meeting. Policy Committee members look for an email the next week or two here so we can get something on the calendar for probably second half of January or first half of February for next meeting.
Great. Thanks, Jim. And Visitation Committee, Richard.
All right, thank you. So in front of all the board members and administrators, you have the Visitation Committee report. And this was based off of the November 13th and 14th school visits that the committee went on and observed. So I'm going to briefly, unless you want me to read 15 pages of the report, but I think I'm just going to give a brief rundown of the highlights, so we're not here till midnight. So our objective as the Visitation Committee is to observe the implementation of next generation standards and to, quite frankly, understand the needs of our schools better. So we visited the Cornwall Central High School, COH, Cornwall Elementary School, our middle school, and Willow Avenue, and each visit gave us some unique insights into the strengths of our district and also areas in need of attention. So, some highlights from each school. The Cornwall High School, our classroom visits, we observed some really effective integration of technology in the classrooms and a healthy balance between traditional learning styles and lesson plans and using technology. It was clear that the learning methods and our teachers were forward-thinking in their educational environment, and we had a discussion with our administrators about the National Honor Society. They're updating their community service requirements. Well, they're actually going back to pre-COVID standards, and we had a brief discussion about the new proposed drop schedule for the academic school year next year. COH, we witnessed a real vibrant classroom environment, had great student participation. The teachers were doing a great job with that. There were a couple, when we were walking through the schools, we had a couple things brought up by the teachers. They felt that they need more help or they want us to look at the special education referral processes, and there was some discussions about the increasing class sizes due to the rising enrollment in our district, but overall a very positive experience we had. We were very impressed. Cornwall Elementary School, very similar. Very impressed with everything. We went into an E&L class, and that was enlightening. At the Cornwall Middle School, we looked at the renovated library and our STEAM room. There were some things brought up from the staff that we need more custodial staff. We need to look into that, and some of the renovations that recently took place, and that we need to look into having more training for our E&L programs. And at Willow Avenue, again, our teachers and staff are phenomenal. They have great energy, they're dedicated, and they really care about our students, and that's what's important. Classroom sizes, again, E&L were discussed. But in conclusion, our visits highlighted the dedication of our staff and the dynamic learning environments in our schools. We identified areas needing attention, such as infrastructure improvements and the need for more resources in certain areas. We look forward to addressing these issues in the coming months collaboratively for the betterment of our district. And again, there's a 13-page report that everyone at this table got, and we will be working on that within the next month or so. Thank you.
So thank you, Richard, for this document. And so what I'm going to ask everyone to do is to review it, not tonight, but between now and the next time we meet, and we will confer as a board and discuss the report in totality at that time. Okay?
Okay.
And
Can I just add one more thing? Very quick. And I want to thank everyone that was involved in making the report or the visitations possible. Because without you guys, it wouldn't have happened. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Richard, for that. I understand there was some rescheduling that had to occur. People seem to be flexible, and I appreciate people's working together to find solutions to the challenges. Richard, could you kindly distribute this to the whole board via email so we have the actual document?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, in an electronic form.
Okay.
And I'm assuming, Terry, you got a copy of this? Yeah. All right, good. Great, thank you. All right. That will then take us, and thank you, Richard, for that. That'll take us to our consent agenda. As everyone knows, the consent agenda permits us to make more efficient use of our time. Is there any item that a board member wishes to discuss separately tonight? Christian. Number 6, which is the tax certification resolution, okay. Any other items? None? Okay, so let us then go to a consent agenda that includes items 1 through 5. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, thank you. So then, item number 6, tax certification resolution. I will take it as listed in the document itself. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, discussion. Christian?
So this is not about any particular case, but perhaps Harvey can address this. Because one thing about, the tax surety and reassessments and things is one reason why property taxes are regressive is because they tend to be, people with resources can reassess their property relatively easily, and people who don't do not, and that leads to somewhat more regression in terms of the tax burden. So that's just the thing. I was wondering if you could just explain the process for people. This is really a question that I know, but I think it would be useful to the community to hear. What is the process? Because obviously we're not the ones who make the reassessment. Where would they go to? How they would file that, just so they understand that, so it can be more broadly understood.
So generally speaking, there's think of two different levels. There's the local town level, town village level, and then there's the county level. So you get your taxes, you feel you're overassessed. Everybody has the ability to challenge that. You can challenge it to, let's just talk about, let's suppose you live in the town of Cornwall, you can challenge that to the town itself. They have a review board, and they can so decide whether or not your challenge is worthy of a change. If they do, there's a change, and we get notified, and we have to reflect that accordingly. If they've already paid their taxes, we have to reimburse them their respective share. If they do not accept that, your challenge, you can take that on to the county. And there's paperwork and so forth that you have to fill out, where you would, again, go through the same process, justifying why and how come, and what you feel the valuation is. If that doesn't gain any steam, then you pretty much have gone as far as you can go at that point in time. One thing I will tell you is that relative to the effort and what you were talking about, the regression and so forth, just because somebody may feel that they don't have the wherewithal, there are organizations out there that do this for individuals. And that's really important because a lot of this may be very foreign for taxpayers. A lot of these organizations actually come forward, and you may find a mailer in your mail and say, you know, and what happens is they get a percentage of any savings that they yield for you. If they don't save anything, they get nothing. All their effort is on them. So that's just good to know as well.
Harvey, thank you for pointing out that there are these organizations out there that do involve doing this legwork for people, and it may not be as repressive as people might otherwise think. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Well, thank you, everyone. So that takes us to the new business, and I noticed that the only new business item we have this evening is the engagement survey discussion. I think I covered that in the president's report, but since it's on the agenda, I'll give anyone an opportunity to comment or question as you may feel the need. Carl. This is the engagement survey discussion. No? Okay, great. So, oh, wait. No, it's okay. This is, yeah.
But earlier you mentioned keeping separate the strategic plan and the engagement survey. And I understand why for a multitude of reasons. However, if we're going to be going to the state asking for aid, if we can package this as one thing, we will not have to wait on state aid and approvals and such if we can do it as one unit. So if there is a vendor that can do both, because whoever's going to help with strategic planning is going to have to use the engagement data as part of their process. So I would encourage you to look into that further before you decide one way or the other, because there's economies of scale there that I think you'll save money, and we won't have to have multiple administrative tasks of asking for money.
So I understand your point about efficiency, and I view what we're doing first in this survey project is kind of like a pilot program, right? Where we find the vendor, we assess the vendor, we decide on the vendor, and then we see what the vendor provides us. And to the degree that we get comfortable with that little lift, as we move and migrate toward the decision whether we're going to do a strategic planning initiative or not. And
I thought that was one of our goals.
What our goal is to look at the roadmap.
Oh, right.
Roadmap.
Okay.
And then once we say, yes, this roadmap works and we want to pursue it, then that's where the other, so where it's a little bit early in at least the timeline that we've established already for us to kind of commingle these two items together. So I appreciate your idea, I really do. And I believe when we start negotiating, the fact that we've already established a data record with one organization would put them to the degree that they could deliver on the other aspect of a strategic planning initiative, right? Would give them probably a leg up in that decision criteria as we try to find that provider. But I really appreciate the idea, and hopefully we'll be successful and be quite efficient with the expenses in this regard. Any other? Christian?
So let me just start with that. I support the idea of an engagement survey, and I think that it is a good thing to create a baseline. What I am, having done some research, knowing what the vendors that you are looking at, and just who are their principal leads and who are their kind of the people running the survey, I'm not sure what we are getting from them on doing an engagement survey. And it seems to me that, look, you can find an engagement survey instrument that's equivalent. In fact, you can find these companies' survey engagement instrument online. They're not copyrighted. They're not proprietary, except for the way they aggregate the data into like factors that they think go together, and they've done some testing on that. What?
They've proven that the factors correlate. I mean, they maybe to not the extent of research you're comfortable with, but there is research behind how they correlate and how they lead to great places to work and everything else. So,
I'm not, well, to save us a discussion of factor analysis and some of these things. I will just say that I think that the factor analysis is something that Gary King at the MIT Harvard Data Center would say something along the lines that factor analysis is not really, it's an art technique. It's a way of saying things go together, and so it's an interpretation. It's not an inferential argument. But and I understand it's used. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just saying like this is something that people can do, and we have the ability to reach out to the people we want to survey. The aggregation of the data or the writing of the items is not something that I think is that complex. And so I understand that there's something for an outside organization, but I guess maybe because I don't understand exactly what we are looking for, that what is the major cost or what are we paying for them to do other than be not us and have something that's independent to look at this. So I'm concerned, I guess, that if we don't move forward, this is something that we are maybe going to miss it. And I take John's word on this, and I support the idea that we should do this correctly. But perhaps we need to also discuss what exactly we're looking for, because otherwise we're using their model, and some of the models they use are mostly as a way that for example, the one Scolaris is basically the idea that they could use their propriety factor analysis as a way of evaluating teachers by just asking students questions. And, and he basically had started as him just doing a little pilot survey for kicks in a small setting and then developing it from there. So I guess my point is that is there other ways to do this that are perhaps even more cheaper than hiring a vendor? And maybe, and look, I don't want to add that if that adds an additional level of complexity or difficulty. I just want to make sure that this moves forward before we get into budget season, and that starts to drive everything else we're doing.
So, and I appreciate your comments, Christian. I think from a monetary perspective, the dollar amounts that I've seen from all the organizations, in my mind's eye, when I think of our budget, is de minimis. And when you factor in then something that might be aidable, reduces it to a fraction of de minimis. I think Harvey probably earns more in interest in a month than the project that we are actually talking about. And that's before state aid. And with state aid, it would reduce it to what he earns in a day. So when I say de minimis, I'm talking maybe anywhere from $2,000 to, if we don't qualify for aid, somewhere in the tune of maybe $20,000, maybe. So while cost monetarily is one dimension, I always think of cost in terms of a broader utility function, and that utility function would include time and expertise and other factors that I guess we could, delineate in terms of what that algorithm might look like. But I do believe that we have an opportunity to rely on a third-party vendor to get feedback that would be valuable, that would not hopefully involve a high degree of skepticism from any of the potential participants in that process, and would be controlled in a way that it would not be disruptive to the current staff involved. Because time is money, and I worry whether we would have the bandwidth to take this on, knowing that the number of respondents that we're looking at is in the thousands potentially, and that the utilization of the information is yet to be determined, other than what you rightfully mentioned as a benchmark of where we are and how people feel. And to do that internally, I don't know what that would take. And so something off the shelf, which is what these vendors provide, in my view at least, and I've seen it done in other organizations that rely on it, and these obviously are cottage industry players in this regard, with their organizational psychologists, as well as the database of thousands of questions that they have that we will be able to sift through and select for our purposes, make it seem almost like the preferable solution.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on that? Thank you, though. I appreciate the thought on that.
John, just to piggyback on that a little bit, just to underscore something that you said, I do think there is a big difference between your comments just bear out the difference between aidable and not. I think 2020, for instance, I can think of a few items on budgets of recent years that have been $20,000 or less, and I just wouldn't want to get into a situation where we're sitting up here contemplating whether to add another coach, which is in that range, and we've already spent something close to that on a survey, which, not saying it's not necessary, but just harder to justify when given an apples-to-apples comparison. So I think we're all in agreement that aidable is the preference, but I think it's, again, just to underscore the importance of getting that, and you had already mentioned, if it means waiting a little bit to get that aid, certainly worth it.
I'm not sure I agree with that, Brendan, but we've already established this as a goal for the year, and I'm not sure.
Agree with what part?
Yeah, what I understood you to say. Could you repeat it in a different way?
I don't know what you want me to repeat. I thought it was pretty straightforward. What part do you disagree with?
Okay, what I heard you say is that not waiting for aid is okay.
No, I said the opposite. I said waiting for aid is the
I'm sorry.
preference.
It threw me off a little bit.
I thought you were going to have me repeat everything I just said, which would have been a waste of time. No, unless I added a nod accidentally.
Again.
No, I was trying to actually repeat what you said word for word.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Got it. All right. I am getting my hearing checked, and oh, by the way, I'm probably going to get something for it. Anyhow.
I'll go back and roll the tape, and I might email you a YouTube clip later of our meeting. No, I'm just kidding.
It's okay. Unnecessary. That's if you don't know, ask the question. I did. Now we're in a better place. Okay. Any other comments on that? None? Great. Pass.
I have a question on one of the reports that we heard about. Can we do that?
Help me understand. You want to go back on the agenda and talk about committee reports?
No, we heard about the committee reports. Can I go back, ask one question about that or not?
We kind of moved off.
It's not like a burning question,
John,
It we've kind of moved off of that, right? So we're further in the agenda. However, I'm just going to look at everybody. We have a kind of a short agenda tonight, but to the degree that is everyone
Well, that's what I want
willing to hear a question? I mean, typically, I would say the time for that has passed, but I don't want to be.
Put this way, for the future.
In a spirit of inclusivity,
Yeah.
let me just say, if it's the will of the board to revisit something that was said in a committee report at this juncture, we can do it. I'm looking.
John, maybe you could clarify something for me now that you're bringing this all up.
What, can you hold,
Sure,
Carl?
sure.
Because I
Sure.
have
Yeah.
a board member who's asking that we go back to a committee report and ask a question.
Yeah,
And I have no problem doing that if it's the will of the board to do that. And does anyone object to that?
If we can agree on the procedure. I mean, I can hold on my question, but like when we hear about committee reports, are we allowed to ask questions or not? I mean, that's-
Sure. I mean, the whole purpose of committee reports is engagement for board discussion.
Okay.
And so, was that the question?
Can I
Or
make
do you have
a suggestion?
Do you have a specific question?
Maybe next time.
That we just close the engagement survey discussion, and then you can even reopen committee reports, just so that we don't then go
Yeah,
back to this.
for the
you know?
avoidance of doubt. So no one is having any problem with the survey discussion that we had? Thank you. All right. So do you have a specific question, Bass, that you'd like to ask?
Okay, thank you. And maybe next time I wasn't sure if somebody gives a report, if you're allowed to engage back and forth.
Yes,
or-
it would be
okay.
standard protocol. If
Okay.
you have a question, to ask it, yes.
Okay. So again, I appreciate now allowing me to go back on the, what do you call it, not the infrastructure, Louis, what do you call your committee?
Facilities?
Facilities, yeah. And Brandon, I wasn't able to come to see, participate in the forum, haven't seen the tape yet, okay? That's why my question. So when a project is completed, right, they do some kind of commissioning, right, and then letter of acceptance, I'm accepting. Did we accept the work that has been completed, officially accepted that, or not?
So the facilities committee wouldn't accept the work, they wouldn't inspect it or be part of that.
Yeah.
It would be the district, Terry, or Mr. Moran
Yeah.
would do that on-site inspection and/or commissioning and/or, transfer of paperwork or cranks or
Right.
levers or whatever parts and pieces, attic stock would be part of that.
Yeah, there's some kind of, from project I've seen kind of recently, we have one of the project completed at West Point, and I was going there to get some training on what they installed, and I saw kind of, like tape, like blue tape here, like they were smart, tuck. It's great, like something like that similar here, because during the visitation, we've been to places where obviously there are a few things that have to be redone, maybe rethought about. They don't look great. For somebody who is going there quickly and leaving, it's not going to notice. But if you're into it, you're going to see that that's not acceptable. So are we going to go back and fix those little things here and there?
So you're looking at the facilities direction. I'm going to put a mirror up and let it reflect to Harvey for a bit because he's the guy with the sticky pad and the tape, and/or Mr. Moran walking in with the deficiency list and the punch list.
Okay.
So let me just say this. There is a very clear and defined process to accept the work. If it's not acceptable, it's not accepted. So there are many parties involved. There's the construction manager, there's the architect,
Yeah.
there's the district. And I can tell you that we're not even at the punch list phase
Okay.
yet. There's still a big to-do list,
Okay.
much of which is a lot of the things you're talking about. So believe me, the list is from, it's 6 feet long
Okay.
right now. They're working on it, and when it's ready and it's acceptable to us, it will be accepted,
Okay,
not
great.
before.
And
Thank you.
Bass, I'll just add a bit on that. We're using the word acceptable. It's not to what Harvey believes in his heart to be acceptable, or what in his mind's eye is acceptable, and/or Walter's interpretation. It's based on the plans and specifications. Did the contractor meet the goals of the plans and specifications? Not design intent, not almost made it. Did he meet the goals? So that's, and Harvey's looking at the same book saying,
Right.
well, he did meet. It is, seafoam green and the color met, and it's accepted.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Louis, Harvey, Bass, Jim. You got something? Covered it? Great. Carl?
Thank you, John. John, I think in the future, especially for a new board member, is when these guys are giving out their reports, maybe you can, at the end of their report, say, are there any questions? Because I get confused on when the proper time to ask a question about some of the reports as a new board member.
Sure, Carl.
And I'm glad to hear from Bass, too, because it seems like he's in this, the same thought process. At any rate, I had a question, and it was towards the, I believe, communications, but facilities could probably, is probably part of facilities. At the communications meeting, it was, a teacher had asked a question about faculty bathrooms being done. And it was said that it wasn't on phase 1 or phase 2 of the jobs being done. I think maybe that may have been a mistake on the communications portion, because, and I'm just going by what I understand, is that Walter, when he gave his video on capital improvements, the faculty bathrooms were included in that. Okay, and then Palumbo Group on April 10th, they came in and it was added to that also. My question is, nothing was done in the faculty bathrooms, in particular in the middle school. What's the story with that? Because phase 1 and phase 2, and I honestly believe it was a mistake that it was reported that it wasn't in those 2 phases, but it actually is. And the bathrooms haven't been touched for the faculty. So I was just curious on what the story is with that.
Thank you, Carl. Terry?
So not too recent history, it seems like 8 years ago, unfortunately, but we had to make some decisions that we communicated with the board and the community that to get everything online, we had to punt some things to later, of which the faculty bathrooms was some of that work. So
I think the question, Terry, is are they on phase 2?
I'm getting confused with the phases, but they will be.
Are they going to be done next summer?
Timeline, Harvey?
All the bathrooms in the district are in the scope. Some of them could not be done based on the cost estimates that came in for phase 1, okay? What that means is they will be pushed to phase 2.
Okay.
But depends on the cost estimates that come in for phase 2. They still might not be done. One of the things that we were geared up for, once we got the bids for phase 1, we knew we couldn't do all the bathrooms. Walter and his team had geared up to do a lot of the bathrooms in-house that we could not do through the contractor and through the project. We started the preliminary work on it. A couple of the bathrooms, for instance, at the middle school, we found some infrastructure issues underneath so that we could not proceed, So it's going to be pushed off to phase 2, but again, it's all depending. We only have a set sum of money, okay? If we cannot afford it, it's going to have to go into another project.
So Harvey, could you just clarify what phase 2 is, just for the avoidance of doubt?
Sure. The crux of it is the athletic facility. It's the middle school locker rooms. And then we're going to also have the bathrooms that weren't done. That's the lion's share. I mean, there's a lot of the little stuff, but that's the bulk of it. Well, again, in this building, it will also include, we have classroom ceilings and lights,
Yes.
Nothing significant cost-wise, but significant in terms of outcome. But I could easily get that information. It's very clear. We have a sheet that says phase 1 and phase 2.
Thank you, Harvey. Richard?
No, go ahead.
Thank you. So, in this capital reserve, we got the capital project approved, it's phase 1, phase 2, right? And then after those two, we have to go out for another vote to approve future projects, correct?
Right.
Correct.
So if we don't have right, so if we don't have the funds right now, let's say phase 2, the bidding comes in, we can't afford to do certain work, how much money do we have in our next capital reserve that was approved in the 2022 vote?
So the most recent capital reserve, which is really capital reserve number 2, that has a ceiling of $5 million that was authorized. We
Yeah.
currently have $3 million in it.
So do we have to reach 5 million to
No.
go out?
No.
So we're at 3 million right now. So let's say that we have an estimate that we're not gonna be able to fund some of the projects that need to be done. Can we, this May, go out and set to the taxpayers and say, in order to fund these projects, can we tap into capital reserve number 2?
You can, but you have to always be careful of what I'll call voter fatigue. You don't want to just go out with a little piece and say, okay, we didn't do this one little piece. You know, you really want to wrap it into a package.
Yeah.
And get it done. The purpose of setting it up for the 5 million is because based on our aid ratio, we would essentially be able to do 20 million, and the 5 million would be all it would cost us, and we have it in a reserve, cost the taxpayers nothing. So the point is, the more that we can get to that 5 million, the more of a project we can do.
Okay, yeah. I just think it's, some of these projects might be very important to get done sooner the better. So that's just my opinion, but I get where you're coming from. Yep, thank you.
Richard, I think that's a fair point to make. I would also include to Harvey's comments is that there's a running tally of expenses. And some of the expenses incurred so far have been less than what were projected. And so when it's all said and done, we will either be flat, have excess, or have to cut something potentially from the phases that are currently approved by the taxpayer to pursue. But my sense, not to handicap anything, but my sense is that there was enough margin of error built in for all of it to get done, barring an explosion on inflation, which lately looks like it's starting to tame a little bit. But, we all need to be just hopeful. Jim, do you have something you wanted to add? I heard. Oh, great, thanks. Anybody else on this?
Trying to digest this whole thing here because it just doesn't seem to make sense to me. It's like you budgeted for something, correct? And now you're saying that, and you included the bathrooms and everything like that in it for everyone, right? And now you're saying basically you don't know if you'll have enough money to do that in phase 2, which makes, okay.
And it's really, they build in as
following me,
much.
John?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Terry.
No worries.
I see, you understand where I'm coming from, right, John?
So I understand your concern. I think it's a fiscal reality, your concern that you're
Yeah.
expressing. And as someone who's built a house, I can tell you that at some point you start cutting things that you thought you wanted or needed and deferred it for another time because the estimates initially were either off base or slightly, how shall I say it in a clean way? They were just in error, okay? That's the only way I should say it, so.
So I got you on that, but what's confusing to me is that when the Palumbo group was here giving their presentation, they also said something about being close to $2 or $3 million under budget.
So, and Carl, I
Correct?
think, I don't know if it was that much money but I understand the concern.
Right.
I thank you for recognizing that somewhere along the line, maybe erroneous information was shared. We'll get to the bottom of it and see what was out there. But I don't think it's fair to think that the things that have been deferred from phase 1 to phase 2 are not going to happen.
Okay.
I don't think that's a fair jump. It's too early in the process to make that leap, okay?
was just looking for clarification
No,
on
yeah.
when that was going to begin. That's all I,
Yeah,
that's
no,
what I was asking.
I think
So
we're
we'll
all
keep an eye on
appreciative
that.
of you finding that there might be information out there that's in opposition, potentially, to previous records that stated that this was being moved, as Terry said. And we'll correct it to the degree that it's out there, okay? All right, thank you so much for that.
I would just add, John,
Hey, Brendan.
I think that, what you've described is correct. I mean, there are going to be certain fiscal realities that you have to deal with, and maybe you just can't do everything that you initially planned. But then to Carl's point, I think that if we come to that worst-case scenario where there are things that we aren't able to tackle, it would be incumbent upon us to provide a clear roadmap to getting those done. So it wouldn't just be, we ran out of money. It would be being honest with the public about the challenges we faced, but then giving a very clear, with not just a wink and a smile, but again, a clear fiscal roadmap to when all of those things would be done. I think that's the best that anyone can hope for. But like you said, this is a road that it's too early to tell if we will even have to cross it.
And so the best I think we can do as a board is to be informed on where we stand as it pertains to the projects that have been completed, the current projects that are ongoing that, were delayed for a variety of different reasons, and those that are planned. And since I would say these bathrooms are planned for phase 2, as we get closer to the execution of phase 2, where do we stand overall? So with that, let me just say, stay tuned, more discussion, more communication on where we stand on this. And so I think the story continues.
So we're clear, John, the reason for my question to begin with is because at the communications meeting, it was reported that it wasn't in phase 1 or phase 2. So that's the only reason I brought it up to begin with. Okay.
Understood.
Just to clarify that, because I don't want to make it, I think that the implication to what you're saying, Carl, could be taken as more nefarious than perhaps, and I think that you intend. You say it was reported. It was, no, it wasn't. It was a response and a question and answer. And you have to realize when we're up there, we don't have access to all the information. I mean, you just imagine how much information there is behind the scenes. It was not presented. I gave a presentation. It was not in the presentation. There was a Q&A afterwards. In the moment, I didn't quite, I was a little in between. I didn't quite expect that question. I didn't know immediately the answer, and we gave the best answer that we could. So, I don't want to overblow that there was any sense of misleading the public on that.
And just to
and that's okay.
Hey, Carl, sure.
I'm letting them go.
Louis, go ahead.
Just to kind of close it.
I just want to give everybody a chance to be heard.
Maybe put a period on the end of it. No one's mentioned it, but this was all developed pre-COVID, and we all know COVID blew rates, numbers, and expectations out of the water. Things disappeared off shelves that you just couldn't get. So that changes the cost structure. And then again, hopefully to put a period on this, you're on the facilities committee as well, Carl. So we have a meeting coming up in January. What I shared with the person who asked the question was, we will bring this to light at the next facilities committee meeting. And if it's not found anywhere, when we drill down on this, and it's not on any list, phase 1 or 2, we will figure out how to put it on a list and make it a priority, just as we did with the other important items identified in the 5-year buildings condition survey.
Hey, Louis, thanks for that. Christian.
Hopefully this is a concluding comment, but I think this underscores the importance of having a strategic plan, because a strategic plan outlines priorities that then kind of guide how we make these decisions about trade-offs when, we allocate a certain amount of money and we find that we can't do everything at once. The plan indicates what we do next, and I think that's what's most important for people. I think it's most important, and what people really want to understand is not they're angry that, I think people are realistic that they know things can't be done now, but they don't want it to happen never. And that's what I think people are always afraid of when they see things being overseen. And I think that points to something that we are already working on.
Hey, Christian, well said on that. I think we all suffer the tendency to think the worst when we hear something that surprises us. And I think it's incumbent on us, the board, to the degree if we're going to fulfill not only our oversight responsibility, but also our responsibility in terms of achieving our overall objective, which is creating and modeling a positive environment. If we do have those negative thoughts, a trigger or what have you, or doubt, we need to be quick and run it to ground and discuss it with the parties that were part of what was observed. Because if we don't give people the opportunity, much like Brendan and I just had this little thing earlier, where I heard the opposite of what was said, and that's just a cognitive whatever, instead of me reacting and going, no, could you say that again? Because I must have misheard you. And the truth is, I did mishear you, much like perhaps armed with better information, people would not have inadvertently misstated the reality because of the desire to respond quickly. And that's the danger sometimes. So the more that we can be thoughtful, the more that we can be giving people the benefit of the doubt, I think the more we could set the tone for the district to achieve all the things that it needs to achieve, and all of us surviving that process. Because I think we truly are on this bus together, and I don't want people dropping off the bus or being thrown out the window or the bus going off the cliff. So let's all kind of just keep that in mind, and not to say that you're not doing that, Carl. I was just reinforcing the overall notion that we all have a tendency, when faced with information, to think it's right when it may not be right. It could just be a misstatement, and then we give people the benefit of the doubt to correct the record.
And I think when I first spoke, I did say there was no gotcha moment for me.
I'm not saying that, Carl.
I
and was
understand
speaking
that.
not to
I want to
you.
clarify something with Brendan right now, okay? So there was no gotcha moment for me. What it was, and I think I made myself pretty clear when I said, listen, I think it was a mistake. And I meant that, okay? So I did. I thought it was a mistake, and for the record, I wanted to make sure that, hey, yes, you know what? It was a mistake, and we are going to address this in phase 2. That's all that had to be done, and that was it.
Great. Okay. So that takes us to our second recognition of visitors. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and provide some comments? So seeing no movement, we'll then move to closing comments from the board, and I will start with Louis. Oh, I'm sorry, Kate.
Singing.
Thanks. I just want to congratulate all the girls and their success again. It's really amazing. I have a lot of classes with these girls, and I know they talk about practice all the time, and it's their main focus. So just congrats, and have a happy holidays.
Thanks, Kate. Louis?
Thank you. Kate, thank you for your reporting. Good job tonight on the solo venture. Yeah, again, also congratulations to the girls cross-country team and the volleyball team. Fantastic to hear all these wonderful accolades and successes. To our tenure candidates, congratulations to you guys. And very simply, everybody have a happy holidays, happy and safe holiday.
Thanks, Louis. Really ditto. Thank you, Kate, for stepping in, for giving the full reports tonight. Congratulations, everybody, for tenure. Obviously, to the cross-country and the varsity volleyball team. And just a quick shout-out to all of the shows and concerts that are coming up. If you have a chance to get over to the high school or wherever they're happening, please do so. There's so much talent on display in this district. I mean, you can show up at any one of these and you will walk away amazed. With that, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, and we will see you next year.
Thanks, Brendan. Richard?
All right. Well, thank you, Kate. You did double the work tonight, so double the pay. Good job. Congratulations to the volleyball team, cross-country team, to our tenure recipients. Other than that, there's not much to say. Happy holidays, and we'll see you next year. Felt like I repeated what everybody said already.
Thanks, Richard. Carl?
Once again, I just want to thank Terry and Megan for everything they did for us with the visitation. And as you know and heard, I had an awesome time. And just happy holidays to everyone.
Thanks, Carl. Christian?
So this is going to be a little bit longer, but I'm just going to advertise that there are only 3 parts. So the first part is just to recognize particularly the importance of women's sports. And it's not just simply about winning and losing on the field. The economist Betsy Stevenson estimates that Title IX, which really was the equalizing, the impetus for this, basically closed the entire gender gap in math and science between boys and girls in schools. And to think of how big that is, and what that means is that it's not just the athletes on the team that benefit, it has a halo effect that carries to the whole school. And I think it's important to recognize that success, and particularly because if you look at some other indicators, some of the things are not so positive for young women recently. And so I'm really happy, particularly for the success of the volleyball team, the cross-country team, because it's not just good for them, it's good for us. Secondly, the first meeting of the district's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee was the last week in November, and I was there with Christine. And I just want to highlight one thing that came up, at least in my group, and that was I was in a group of about 8 or 9 members of the community, and I heard about 7 or 8 different stories about bullying, about the reason why they were there and their concerns about that. And it's something that, you know, as an educator, I see a lot of things that concern me, sometimes about the culture. And it just brought me back to kind of my first conversation about this, which was with a Japanese police official about 25 years ago. And he said that, you know, bullying is really, and this is a little bit translated in my head from the Japanese to English, but it's about power and powerlessness and connection and isolation. And he said that really what he thought the cause of bullying was, and there was in Japan a really concern about at the time, is what we probably would call hustle culture, and what I would call the win or die kind of like mentality. And when you have high stakes testing, and you know, if you are a winner or you lose, it creates that type of thing where the anxiety and stress manifests itself through the culture. And I think particularly about Rachel Simmons' book that is now 2 decades old about Odd Girl Out, that talks about pervasive female bullying and very often why schools don't respond to it well. And that women often experience the effects of bullying 20, 30, 40 years after it occurred, well after the bully is no longer in the environment. And so I would like just to urge, you know, the board to think about this and to think about something proactively to deal with it, because I think it's that important. And third, because it's the holidays, sometimes you get your gifts early, and I got one just last week, and I'm going to make this as my kind of holiday message. And this is from Nicholas DiPaolo, who I've never met before, but after some research, he's the director of guidance at Westlake High School in Westchester. And he put it on Facebook, and someone sent this to me. And I'm just going to read it and then just close with my holiday message. So Nick DiPaolo wrote, "Every year for the past 17 years, I get a phone call at work roughly around the same time of day, mid-morning, from an iconic gentleman named Lou Brunelli. And he wishes me happily St. Nicholas Day, as his name is Nicholas. And he ends the call saying, 'Do something good for the kids today, in the spirit of St. Nicholas.' And he says for 17 years, he never missed calling me. And so my holiday message is to all the people in our community, in our district, do something good for the kids today. And I think that's a good holiday thought."
Thank you, Christian. Christine?
Yeah, so thank you. I've been deep in thought after Christian's thoughts. So, you know, the bullying stuff is fascinating to me because of the human behavior behind it. And listen, let's face it, some people are jerks, they're not bullying, but how can we work through all that? Because it is devastating to kids that find themselves in that place. So thank you for bringing that up. I also want to give credit to Terry, the first DE&I meeting. That's a sticky subject to lead a group of, 60 people from all different levels of the community, all different kinds of students. But I will say the table I was at, because we were broken up into tables, we had some really vulnerable, honest conversations. And then Terry took us through an exercise to talk about, like, what is it we want as the ideal state, essentially. But it's a lot to pull through. And so kudos for really moving that along, even when people were getting stuck, because that's hard. I'm excited to see what comes next. I think the people that in that room, there was just really great energy and intention, right? So even if we don't do it right, the intention is there. And so that was really powerful. So I was glad to be a part of that. Kudos about the congratulations. I got chills when they were talking about the teams. A shout out to T-Rav too, and he had the 5th graders come up and sing with the high school kids, which was just really cool when you think about, you have the kids, you have the young football players go to the football thing. Like I was like, oh, that's great. And then at the end, he invited anyone to come up and sing the Alleluia chorus. Listen, I don't have any talent, but we used to sing it every year at my school, so I just got so reminiscent. It was great. So I really appreciated all that involvement he created. So kudos to him and all the students involved in that.
Thank you, Christine. Hey, Bass?
Yeah, thanks, John. Just want to mention recently last week, Saturday, I believe, or Friday, went to the high school to watch for the first time in my life our varsity wrestling varsity team. They had tournament, 4 teams total. I watched till 11 o'clock and I left. And I was, it's not like just occurred to me, but it's because of my son. I mean, he's in 7th grade. He's joining the modified team. It's official today. Coach Daniels selected him. Basically, he selected everybody. And that's why I'm mentioning this. It's kind of, goes like kudos to our sports team under your leadership, Mr. Dade. Usually we have 1 team modified wrestling. This year we have 2. A lot of enthusiasm. Like around 60 kids expressed interest. And I understand, like being a teacher before, Coach Daniels tried his best to kind of cut down on the number. He made it look tough. You have to be 15 minutes before we start ready, and everybody was like for it. He was trying to disqualify people. He couldn't because of the enthusiasm. So eventually he said, okay, everybody's on team. So this year we're gonna have 2 modified wrestling teams instead of 1. So it's gonna depend when you go like on tournaments, like what the other team have ready. They have enough to let everybody compete or not. But again, kudos to our wrestling program, to our athletics program, and again to Mr. Dade being the superintendent overseeing everything. That's all I have for tonight, and I wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I see you in 2024.
Hey, thanks, Bass. Jim?
Thank you. I will once again send a royalty check to Matt Bannon and say ditto. I won't reiterate all of the thank yous. I'll throw one nugget in here with recognizing some of our sports teams, and Mr. Simo was here. Just a shout out to his dedication. He and I coached together with a handful of other dads, a youth football team this year. His son and one of my boys were on the same team. And he actually left his own son's game, which he was coaching after the first quarter, to go up to the boys' soccer sectionals after they won the sections, so the regionals, I guess. So, his dedication to all of our sports programs, where he actually left one of his own son's sporting events to go see our high schoolers in action. So, and I know that he traveled all over the state up to Syracuse and Binghamton and around and about everywhere to attend all these events. So, he's sort of behind the scenes is providing these coaches with everything that they need to filter down to let our student athletes have the success that they do. So just a shout out to his dedication there. And happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and hope everybody gets to enjoy winter break and spend some good time with their family and friends.
Hey, thanks, Jim. So, Bass, you mentioned the enthusiasm for two different teams. I know that in the arts, we have such talented kids that we have normally two different teams of cast when it comes to these productions, because it's hard to exclude any of them. And I think that the challenge for all of us as we move forward, as we start thinking about the budget, is how we can ensure that all the kids are connecting and having the opportunity to participate in these things. I'm so grateful to hear about the modified wrestling team. I'm sure there are other teams as well at that, especially at that young level, that probably would benefit from having two teams as well, much like the arts has solved that riddle, right, of where you have two different casts, like two starting teams that are able to participate. I think it speaks to the community, it speaks to the quality of our students, and it speaks to our willingness to ensure that there are opportunities for all. So hats off to everyone for that. I just want to close by saying Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. Please be safe, and we will see you in the new year. Thank you all. All right, can I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so closed. Thank you. Take care.